Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending the regularly scheduled Quality of Life and Public Safety Committee meeting for today, August 20th, 2020. I am Councilman TJ Clark, the Majority Leader for the City Council, as well as the co-chair for the Quality of Life and Public Safety Committee. I'm joined by my colleague, Jimmy Sanchez, who's also the co-chair of the Quality of Life and Public Safety Committee, and we are joined by Councilman John Gale, who is a voting member, as well as Councilman, I just saw him, okay, Joshua Mitchum, which is also a voting member, and we are joined by our esteemed council colleagues, Councilwoman Shirley Surgeon, Councilwoman Marilyn Rossetti, Councilman Nick LeBron, as well as Attorney Natalie Fiola Guerreri, uh, Deputy Corporation Counsel Alexandra Lombardi, our esteemed chiefs, Chief Reginald Freeman, Chief Jason Thody, and we also are joined by Councilwoman Wildalise Bermudez. We have a couple of people that have joined by way of telephone. Can you announce who you are?
Assistant Chief Medina.
Gary Bozano.
Okay. Hello, AC Medina, and another individual who joined by telephone. Can you announce who you are?
Gary Bozano.
Gary Bozano. Hello. How are you doing?
What's up, man? How are you guys?
I'm doing well, thank you. All right. Just hold tight until we get to your item on the agenda. And so we have a jam-packed agenda for tonight. And so I think that we are going to, if there are no objections, to move with the regular scheduled monthly reports by our two chiefs. And if you just can really truncate your presentation to us today, that would be greatly appreciated. And please, by all means, send us the printed version of your presentation in case any of our colleagues would like a copy of it, because we know that you spent a lot of time on preparing your presentation for today's agenda. So we typically start with the police, the fire department, but we'll start with Chief Thody first.
Thank you, Councilman, and good evening to everybody, and thanks for being here. In the interest of time, I had sent out the CompStat package to all the members of the Quality of Life Public Safety Committee. I will also send that package out to all the rest of the members of council that are on the call as well. Generally speaking, our focus right now is on violent crime. For those that attended the town hall on Saturday, we went through a lot of the detail, a lot of the minutia of what's going on and what we're seeing and what we're doing. So I'm just going to address a couple of the elements related to violent crime, and then if there's any questions, I can address them specifically. I'm going to try to be fancy here and just share my screen real quick. Did it work? Okay.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it's working.
So this is kind of our response from here in the HPD. As kind of usual, we have, as most people know, our weekly CompStat meetings. In those meetings, we look at our crime trends, and right now our focus as an entire department is on violent crime and what we feel is driving the violent crime. There is a direct nexus, I've said before, I'll say again, between our violent crime and our auto theft problem. So our focused efforts right now are looking at the automobiles that are being used in this crime, both stolen and non, however most are stolen, and both the people and the areas where we're seeing this crime. So if you go through this, I'll go through this slide very quickly, but this basically looks at our approach to this spike in violent crime. And our approach is the WHO, and that's intelligence-led. That's our violent crime unit, our C4, which is basically the technology side of our house, our fugitive task force, and our FBI partners, Narcotics and Drug Enforcement Agency, Major Crimes, Parole, Probation, Corrections, and Community Partners. We work with everyone in that list to develop the people that we believe are our next shooters or even our next victims in violent crime, and we focus our efforts on that in both services, in enforcement, and it's really individual specific. We also look at the where. We use our crime analysis division, which are the heat maps that you see, our evidence-based policing model, which is our officers that are in those areas that over the last 5 and 10 years, we've seen drive some of the crime in the city. Obviously, our C4, our technology element, our shot spotter, our cameras, and things like that to develop the where. And when we can put the who and the where together, we're usually very successful in intervening in violent crime. Other factors we consider time of day, day of week, and that's how we adjust schedules. That's how we adjust days off and things like that. Next slide briefly. This is kind of the overlay. Assistant Chief Medina, who's on the call, is our overall Chief of Operations, and he has kind of overall command of this entire our 4 captains, one in the patrol division, one specifically focused on North Community Services Bureau, one in the South Community Services Bureau, and then our Detective Bureau captain. Those are the four captains that actually lead the charge and take the direction from myself and Assistant Chief Medina and coordinate with one another to make sure that our resources are all where we want them and when we want them there. Some additional resources are district lieutenants. We have 4, one in each corner of the city. We added district sergeants probably about a month or so ago so that these sergeants can interact directly with what you see 2 down, which is the 24 walk beat officers. We've always had our 15 community service officers out there. Many of you know them well. We added 24 additional walk beat officers to those 15 community service officers, and we put them under the Community Services Bureau instead of under the Patrol Bureau. That way there we can adjust their schedules to fit the needs of the communities where they're walking. They fall directly under the district sergeants, and that's why we added them. Our violent crime unit went from 2 detectives to 6, including 2 detectives from the Connecticut State Police. Auto theft unit went from 2 detectives. We added 4 officers to that, so now there's 6 total in our auto theft division. Our accident response unit, due to the pandemic, we're just not seeing a lot of car accidents out there. So we transferred them to regular traffic enforcement duties. That helps us target the stolen vehicles. That helps us target some of the street racers and some of the traffic concerns that we hear at NRZs and at this quality of life and public safety meeting and others. So those 4 individuals have been added onto traffic. We have a detective liaison now that works directly with GA14. Those of you on the call on Saturday know that we have a new relationship with State's Attorney Walcott, and one of that is a liaison to work directly with her investigators and her prosecutors so they know what's going on, so we can avoid some of those stories that we heard on Saturday of arrests that didn't necessarily go the way we want them to go. We also have a sergeant that liaison directly with our community partners, and that's Sergeant Mastriani. We saw that at play this last weekend when we asked for community partners to come out and help us kind of try to quell the violence, and they did. Many did respond, and Sergeant Mastriani was instrumental in that. We're also looking at New Britain, East Hartford, Manchester, and West Hartford. Really, this 84 corridor from Manchester all the way back to New Britain is where we're seeing a lot of these stolen cars come from. So we've got a commitment from New Britain, and we're looking into the other departments to try to get task force officers to come and help us with some of those issues. Last question that comes up quite a bit is what are we doing? What are the state police resources that we're getting, and what are we doing with them? Mayor Brennan, through Governor Lamont and myself, and speaking with Commissioner Ravella, we secured specific elements of the state police to support the efforts that we are doing. A lot of people were concerned that they're going to see troopers in uniforms in the streets. That's not the case. These are specific elements that we requested to help, 1, intervene in the violence, and 2, help us investigate it. As more shootings, as more aggravated assaults occur, we need more people to help investigate those and bring those folks responsible to justice. So this is a breakdown of what the state police in Hartford right now looks like. We have 1 sergeant who has overall supervision of the CSP elements. We have 7 statewide narcotics task force detectives, officers, and troopers. Some of those officers are task force officers assigned by local police departments. They're not all troopers. We have 5 statewide auto theft detectives, officers, and troopers. Again, that's a statewide task force. They're not all troopers. And then 2 state police detectives that I alluded to earlier that are directly assigned to our violent crime unit. And then the last element from the state police is the state police traffic division that kind of is doing what our traffic division is doing and trying to focus on these stolen vehicles, going off the hot sheets and going off the cars that we know are stolen on the highways. We know these cars are coming into and out of the city via the highway. So the traffic division from the state police is assigned to that 84 corridor and beyond, the on-ramps, the off-ramps, looking to kind of intervene in the auto theft problem that we see that's also driving some of our violent crime. And that, with a quick breath, is the fastest I can do that.
Thank you, Chief, for that abbreviated version of your presentation. Right quickly, are there any of my colleagues that have a quick question? Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Councilman Clark. Two questions, and I'll say them at once, so I don't have to keep talking. One is, Chief, you mentioned, you're assigning more officers to different, you're shifting officers. Where are they coming from? Where are they getting taken? That's question one. And the other question is unrelated, but it's related to our business on the CPRB this evening, so I figured I'd ask it now. When you were still interim chief, one of the things I remember you talked about was putting all of the Hartford police policies online so that they're available to the public. And that's also something that's come up in the discussion of the CPRB reforms. So I just wonder if you could address whether that's something that can happen, is happening, could happen in short order, because if we know it's happening anyway, it makes our whole discussion easier. Thanks.
I'm unmuted. So the second question first, yes, it's called forward-facing policies. It's on our website right now. It's a little bit convoluted to get to it. I'm working with the web designer, so you have to click on the Hartford Police website under About Us, and then under About Us, you'll see Hartford Police policies. And then we have 3 folders in there where we shared the climate study there, along with the PowerPoint presentation that the researchers did. Our policies, our new policies that have been accepted for accreditation are in there. That list will grow. I think if you look at it right now, don't hold me to it, but I think there's about 15 or so policies in there, but that list will grow. But that is already underway. It's been underway for probably about the last 6 months or so.
Let me jump in. Is the goal to have all the policies eventually?
So there are some policies that we won't put out in the public, like our response to bank alarms is a good example. Like anything that tips your hat tactically about like how HPD would respond to something where someone can use that to compromise public safety or tactics, our shifts, our rotations. But other than that, yes, all the policies will be on there unless they have some kind of an impact on our operations. And that'll be case by case, because we even looked at potentially redacting pieces of the policy. So you can put the policy up there, but you might have to take sections of it out. So yes. The other question, so right now we're not seeing a nexus between narcotics and the violent crime right now. That could change. So the 2 detectives that I reassigned to the violent crime unit came out of narcotics because right now, again, and it's always a whack-a-mole game, right? Right now we're focused on violent crime. So I took 2 detectives out of narcotics and moved them there. In auto theft, I took a canine officer out of patrol and put the canine officer in the auto theft division, because a lot of times these cars are abandoned and the canines are good to be able to do tracks. I also took a couple officers. One of the things the climate study showed us is these 90-day rotations and these opportunities for our cops to do kind of new things like work in auto theft is a good thing. So we moved 4 officers. I didn't have detectives to move, but I moved 4 officers over to that as well. Another good example is we have a detective assigned to the postal inspector. And really the question was, well, how can the postal inspectors help us with violent crime? Well, they have a lot to do with ghost guns that may come through the mail, and they have to do with some of the larger narcotics deliveries that come through the mail that we can kind of intercept without using the detectives that are involved in the investigations. So we moved chess pieces around within the department to focus on violent crime.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief, for that presentation. And next, I would like to call our Fire Chief, Reginald Freeman.
Good evening, sir, and good evening to all of our council members, our sirs, and our madams on the call. So great to see you all, even if it's virtually. I have a very brief presentation today. Unfortunately, our fire stat presentation is still down. We, due to the cyber attack, we are having to rebuild that portfolio from scratch. Our strategic planning manager, Leandro Siri, is working diligently on making that happen. I anticipate it being ready by the end of this month. So as soon as I do receive the Firestat data for October, you will have it in your inbox. Just a few happenings that's going on in the department. As you're well aware, on the agenda today, there are two items that impact the fire department. Both are grants, federal grants, specifically from FEMA. One is a $173,000 grant that is going to allow all of our firefighters to receive medical screening to ensure that they don't have cancer for the most part. This is a huge win for the city of Hartford and our Hartford firefighters. If you're unaware of the fact that firefighters are 63% more susceptible to develop cancer than an average citizen just because of the nature of our profession. So for us to be able to provide this screening for our brave men and women of the fire department, I'm just so elated and so happy that we were able to obtain this grant. The other $180,000 grant is federal reimbursement money for some of the money we have spent on COVID-19 supplies specifically. So that $180,000 will offset some of the roughly $560,000 that we have spent out of our general fund for COVID-19 supplies since March. The other portion of that money remaining that we have spent, Director Arroyo has been working and continues to work on getting reimbursed from the public health department at the federal level. So, but great news that we're at least getting $180K back that we can put back into the general fund, hopefully, if the vote goes accordingly tonight. And then, of course, at your next regular council meeting. Other happenings in the department, we have done great, knock on wood, with having a limited number of your firefighters contracting COVID-19. To date, we've only had 4 that have contracted COVID-19 presumptively from the duties and responsibilities of their day-to-day jobs. We have had a total of 6 members, in fact, test positive. The 6th member was actually 2 weeks ago, a member of a support services division. And within that time frame, within that week, we went back and did contact tracing, and there's approximately 40 firefighters that went through this particular building or was in the vicinity of this employee. And we actually, through the contact tracing, sent all of these members notification. They all got screened through St. Francis, who does all of our COVID-19 screening for your fire department. And we've had no other members test positive that was in the vicinity or came in contact with our employee. And that's for the simple reason that we practice what we preach. We sanitize our workplaces, we wear our appropriate PPE, and we social distance, even for mandatory training, which took place 2 weeks ago, which was live fire training, which we have to complete per OSHA. So we did have one member test positive a few weeks ago. That did not turn into a number of your firefighters testing positive. Actually, 0 tested positive that was in the vicinity or came in contact with them because of the precautions that we take on a daily basis. And last but not least, just want to also share my thank you on behalf of all your firefighters to not only the members of the Court of Common Council, but also to Mayor Brennan and Ms. Montanez for the support of the procurement of new apparatus. We have 2 new engines that are inbound from Florida. We also have a new ladder truck as well as a heavy rescue that we're going to take possession of here within the next few weeks. We have an aging fleet. We do have a capital improvement plan, which includes the renovations, proposed renovations of firehouses, the procurement of new fire apparatus, as well as other capital expenditures. So thanks to your support, thanks to the support of the mayor, Ms. Montanez, we are getting 4 much needed brand new apparatus, and we hope we will continue this process moving forward with being able to procure at the minimum, preferably minimum 1, preferably 2 every year moving forward until we catch up with the runs, if you will, with our apparatus. That, you know, we have our busiest engine in the city, which is engine 1. downtown on Main Street. They run about 5,500 calls a year. So they're busy. They're busy. So we have new apparatus en route, and that's going to be very helpful to your firefighters. And that is my report.
Thank you, Chief. Councilman Mitchum, I see your hand.
Thank you for that report, Chief. Just a quick question that occurred to me: when we get the new apparatus, does the old equipment, does it stay in reserve? Do we have a way to sell it to recoup some of the costs? What happens with that stuff?
Great question, sir. So what we do is we actually rotate the apparatus. So for instance, we have a different type of ladder truck that's in straight stick. It's not your typical bucket that you see in the city that we have. We're doing that to diversify our fireground operations. Different type of apparatus serve different purposes. Years ago, we and tillers. Tillers are just, monstrosities. They're huge. And you actually have a driver in the very back that has to turn the wheel the opposite direction of the driver in the front is turning the wheel to make corners. So ladder 4 at the Fire Chief John B. Stewart Fire Station, Station 14, it's in real bad shape. And then also ladder 5 that is located at Sisson Avenue, 150 Sisson, is in bad shape. So what we're going to do is move the ladder truck to one of those 2 locations, and then one of those apparatus designated as a spare or be moved to offset another truck in the city that is even in worse condition than they are. Once we knock out, let's say, another spare or reserve apparatus, that is when we will then have that spare or reserve sold, and that money goes back to the city's general fund.
Thank you, Chief. Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, Chief, good evening. I saw the straight stick ladder. My understanding that a few years ago, I'm not sure how far back, we did away with the straight stick because it wasn't beneficial. So what's the difference now with the straight stick versus what we have? I know you touched on it, but just so that I and everyone else has a better understanding, because as far as the straight stick, it's not an extension ladder, correct?
So the difference between the straight stick and the tower ladder, or the buckets as we call them, is that you just don't have that bucket, right? So the firefighters enjoy riding that elevator to the roof, and so that's where the training aspect is going to be very crucial with this new apparatus. It's not something that we're going to rush to put out on the street because it's something new we have not had in the city for roughly 20 years. But to your statement, Mr. Councilman, as far as it not being effective, that's really just a matter of opinion on who that's coming from. We used to have straight sticks. We used to have the tillers. And any fire department of our size, you're not going to find another department that does not have a complement of different types of trucks. We had all tower ladders, all buckets, quite frankly, in my professional opinion, just as a matter of convenience. Our technicians in the shop, they can work on all the same type of bucket trucks, and the chiefs allowed the superintendents to do all of the specifications and procurement of all the apparatus. When I got here in 2016, I made it immediately clear that I would be involved in the procurement of our apparatus, because obviously as a chief of the department, I want to make sure that our fireground operations, we can have every possible tool we need to mitigate an emergency in an efficient manner. So it all depends on how you use it. Hartford, your firefighters are very aggressive. We don't just stand outside and spray water on a house. We get inside and get after it. And the tower ladders are it's a defensive truck. So your straight stick allows firefighters to get to the roof. The jack spread for the E1 straight stick that we're getting is 11 feet with no pinning of the extensions. And our Sutphens, our tower ladders, currently the extension is 21 feet. So you have jacks that extend out 21 feet and they have to be pinned. So just from a setup and operational standpoint, these straight sticks are going to make our fireground more efficient. Is it different? Absolutely. Are there some firefighters that don't want to be on it because they want to ride that elevator to the roof instead of walking up that ladder? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it's about efficiency and effectiveness. And we've had them in the city before. You can, other retirees that you come in contact with will tell you that they love them. Some may tell you that they hate it, but everyone has an opinion
on that. So just to for again a better understanding. So do we have a combination of different truck ladders?
No, we do not, sir, and that's what I'm trying to tell you.
So this is going to be the specific type that we're going to have. It's a straight stick and nothing else.
No, sir. We will keep a complement of tower ladders. In an ideal world, we would have a mix of tower ladders and straight sticks because they serve different purposes.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that presentation, Chief. And I think this is a good segue for us to move along to our agenda. And we'll also want to say welcome to our Council President, Mally D. Rosado, who has joined us. If we can look at our agendas, item number 1 on our agenda is communication from Mayor Brennan with the company resolution authorizing the city to accept a grant of $173,000 from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Federal Emergency Management Agency's fiscal year 2019 Assistance to Firefighters Grant, AFG, to fund cancer screening for all firefighters. So, Chief, you had alluded to some of the components to this grant. Is there anything else that you would like to highlight about this grant?
Thank you, Mr. Councilman. Other than it will save lives, this is a crucial grant for our firefighters. There are sonograms, x-rays, full wellness and medical evaluations, blood work, to where they're looking for cancer in every one of our single firefighters. And their track record from these evaluations and medical assessments, the feedback from those who have gone through it, there's numerous testimony of cancer being found that did not come up in their regular medical evaluation with their primary care doctor. So there's no doubt in my mind that this will save one of our firefighters' lives.
Thank you for that. So who's the medical provider that will be conducting these screenings?
LifeScan Wellness, and prior to us selecting them, we did speak with local healthcare providers here locally, specifically Hartford Hospital, St. Francis. We did have sit downs with our local providers, and they just could not do what this company does at the price that they're charging.
Okay, thank you. I'll open up the floor to my colleagues with any questions regarding this. Seeing none. All right. Moving right along, the chair will entertain a motion.
Yeah, make a motion to send it to council with a favorable recommendation.
I second the motion.
That's both items 1 and 2.
It's been properly motioned and second to send this back to City Council with a favorable recommendation. In discussion, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposals, objections? Seeing none, the ayes have it. This motion is passed. Moving right along, item number 2 on the agenda. Communication from Mayor Brennan with a company resolution authorizing the city to accept a grant of $180,266.82 from the United States Department of Homeland Security's Federal Emergency Management Agency's fiscal year 2020 Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program COVID-19 Supplemental AFGS to provide funds to purchase of PPE and related supplies, including reimbursements to prepare for and respond to coronavirus. So I think Councilman was trying to get this to be part of the motion as well. But just for this will, as you said, will save the city money out of the general fund, correct?
Yes, sir. What's going to happen is that we will get reimbursed for $180,000 out of the roughly just under $600,000 that we have spent on COVID-19 supplies. And this money will go back to the city's general fund.
Thank you. And to date, do you have a ballpark figure of how much the city has spent on PPE supplies?
Yes, sir. Just under 600,000. I believe it's 560,000 plus off the top of my head.
Okay.
And Director Arroyo was working on reimbursement for those other monies through public health, which is a different grant process through the federal government.
Gotcha. Any questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Chair, one quick question.
I'm sorry, Councilman Gale.
It's all right, I'm hidden over here. Thank you. Chief, I'm just wondering, with respect to both item number 1 and item number 2, how do these grant proposals come about? How do they get across your desk? I mean, is every fire department in the country getting the same opportunities here, or are we somehow equal with everybody, behind the 8 ball, or ahead of the game here?
Great question, Mr. Councilman. We are actually ahead of the 8 ball. The notification process comes through FEMA, through the AFG, which is Assistance to Firefighters Grant. We also, if you recall, we received $11 million back in 2017 to hire 70 firefighters. That was the second largest award that year, just behind the City of Los Angeles Fire Department. So for these particular grants, these 2 grants specifically, every department in the country receives the same email, and it's up to those respective departments to fill out their application and apply. Not everyone is awarded reimbursements or awarded grants. Your fire department, since 2016, has been awarded now to date $12.4 million in federal grant money. That is more than twice the amount of total federal money that this department has received up until 2016. So we as a city, we're very aggressive in pursuing federal grants. We throw the kitchen sink at it with all of our talent in the city. We work with the grants department. We work with M&B. We work with finance. Miss Rawls, Nancy, who was previously with us. They all do a phenomenal job, and we're all sitting around the table coming up with the best possible grant that we can submit to get these funds. And we've gotten $12.4 million of those funds from the federal government to date. We're not done yet. Every time there's application process, we will be applying.
Well, thank you, Chief, and the City of Hartford thanks you. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Comments? None? All right, let's try this again. The chair will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion, send it to council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
It's been properly motioned and seconded that this item will be council as a favorable recommendation. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposals, abstentions? The ayes have it. This item is passed on to the next city council meeting. Moving on, and if it's okay, with no objections, we're just going to continue to take this out of order so that we can get through some of the other items quicker.
Yes.
So we can spend time on one particular item. Item number 4, which is Mayor Brennan with a company resolution confirming the appointments of Shantae Brody, a member of the Board of Education, and Gary Bozano, a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, to the Police Accountability Review Board, which is item 7 on September 28th's agenda. And we do have Mr. Bozano on the phone, who's called in, and would just like to highlight that Ms. Brody has a Board of Education meeting today, which is occurring right now. So this is probably why she is absent from this committee meeting. Mr. Bozano.
He's muted. Hold on. Let me figure out which one. Okay.
Mr. Bozano?
Hello.
Mr. Bozano?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
All right, good.
All right. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we are entertaining the mayor's resolution to confirm your appointment and Ms. Shantae Brody's appointment. And if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are interested in being a member of the Police Accountability Review Board.
Yeah, so, as you know, many of you guys know me. I've been living in Hartford now for 3 years. I'm no longer a rookie here, so I've been here 3 years. And I've been serving on planning and zoning for 2 years, about 2 years approximately, and have enjoyed my time there and wanted to get more involved in the city. And when I saw this come up, I did ask Councilor and the mayor if they were interested in people to be on it. I would have some interest in being on that. Based on everything that's been going on lately, I think it's important that, sometimes you just got to go back and look at things and see, okay, what can we do different? What improvements can we make to help any situation that is not going the right way in any town that is? As many of you know, I served as deputy mayor in the town of South Windsor, and I served 3 terms on the council there. So I'm well aware of, let's just say, police accountability and budgeting and other things that are needed to run a municipality. So I thought it would be kind of interesting to get involved with this, and if I can help in any way, that would be great.
Thank you for that. During your time as deputy mayor and on the South Windsor Town Council, what committees did you chair?
Oh boy, it's been so long. I don't remember. I believe I was on the ethics committee, a park and rec committee as a liaison, and obviously the planning and zoning commission as a liaison. We had more liaison positions than committees, if you will. So,
okay.
we had the audit committee and the ethics committee and things like that. But many more of the things were more of a liaison to these different commissions than committees. We didn't have nearly the amount of committees that the city of Hartford has. Council kind of was a committee at whole.
Okay. And who was actually in charge of implementing policy? What body?
Well, at that point in time, we had a town manager that would bring things to the council, and the council would approve those resolutions or not approve those resolutions.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation.
We didn't have a strong mayor form of government, so the council was kind of, I always equated it that the town manager was the chairman of the corporation, and the council was the board for that corporation that the chairman would answer to.
Okay. Any questions from my colleagues? Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Gary. Nice to hear your voice again.
Yeah,
do you, either through when you were on council before, or just through your professional life, do you have any particular experience or expertise around policing and police accountability?
Not police accountability as much. We never had. Well, we did have some issues in town that were obviously personnel issues that obviously I wouldn't talk about because they were, executive session items with either harassment or things like that regarding other personnel. We never had a case where, an officer was negligent, if you will, towards a citizen or anything like that.
One more question, if I could. Do you,
of course,
if you could, speaking broadly, obviously, not in specifics, but what do you think is the most important reform or change that you think should happen to the way policing is done in Hartford?
I think I probably said this last year. Most police are good people. All right, they want to do the right thing. They want to protect. They want to help, and all that. I just think there needs to be more trust and respect among police and citizens, or residents, I should say, and residents and police. I think that's important to have that communication open. The community policing, the officer friendlies of the old days, where everybody knew everybody, and you could get along. And if you had an issue, you could go to the officer and tell him you had an issue, or if you had a situation, you could go to that officer and communicate with them. But it really, to me, it comes down to trust and respect. But I think a lot of it has to do with collaboration. You know, I see this review board not making decisions immediately. Okay, I think it's going to take a little time. By the time you get input from the residents, you get input from the police, you get input from the council, you get a fair amount of input from everybody, a good collaborative effort, and then you can start to make some decisions. But I don't think this is something that you can say tomorrow, okay, this is what we're going to do. You know, so I think it's important to have all that together. But I believe it's a lot of trust and respect amongst the different groups, including the police, including the council, including the fire department. You know, I think everybody needs to believe and work together that we all want to help each other. It's just a matter of how we help each other.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Thank you, through the chair. I just have one question. Do you personally believe that all lives matter, Black lives matter, or blue lives matter?
To me, being somewhat of a religious person, I believe all lives matter. And with that includes all lives. It doesn't matter if it's a human, a dog gets abused, whatever it is. I think if there's abuse out there, it matters. All of it matters to me. Nobody should have to deal with abuse. No animal should have to deal with abuse. Nothing. Nobody should have to deal with abuse.
Okay. Thank you for that. Councilman Sanchez, saw your hand first.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Bozano. How are you?
Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, how are you tonight?
I'm doing all right. So one of the issues I have with appointing anyone to the Civilian Police Review Board is that we've done this several times, and it seems to be that they never make it. And when I say they never make it is because there is a training required. And when you get onto this, especially this board, you have to be dedicated, one, and two, you have to have the time. And unfortunately, we have lost members because they even have the time for the training itself. If without that training, it actually disqualifies you to get on that board. So my question is simple. Obviously, how dedicated are you to make a difference here, and do you have the time to make a difference as well?
Good question. I will tell you that I have my own business, so I'm pretty flexible with time. I am committed, obviously, to planning and zoning on those Tuesday evenings of the month. So it would be very difficult if they were to meet on any of those 2 Tuesdays of the month that we typically meet. It would be very difficult to commit to it, obviously. But I am here for Hartford. As you guys know, I wanted to get involved from day one, and I want to see this city perform and do well. And I want obviously the commitment is there to just make this city better. You know, I came from the suburbs. I saw what it was like, what people thought of Hartford, and I don't like it. And then the better we can do for the city, the better we present ourselves to the suburbs and everywhere else, the better we look. So, yeah, I'm fully committed, other than the fact that, like I said, if we were to meet on the Tuesday nights that I have planning and zoning, then I wouldn't be able to do this, obviously.
Okay, and then I just want to go on with also thanking you for your interest in being a part of this board so that we can move the city forward, as well as Shantae, Brody. One thing I'm not sure of myself tonight, if I'm going to vote on the 2 appointments, because I need an update on the demographics on the members. It has nothing to do with either appointment. But I am sure that it will move forward after the fact, after I find out, if I can't find out this evening.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
I think you want to have as mostly diversified board as you could. You don't want everybody to be on one side and everybody to be on another side. So it's important to have that diversity in every way possible, whether it's thought process or whatever it might be. You need that diversity.
I appreciate your understanding.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Just want to clarify one thing so that people aren't confused. This item that we are considering is for appointments to the Police Accountability Review Board and not the Civilian Police Review Board. And also, too, these two appointments here are representing the minority makeup of the board. If you would recall, the first set of appointments were, I believe, heavy one party. I think they were all Democrats, and Bozano is a registered Republican, and I believe Ms. Brody is a registered member of the Working Family Party, which will bring us in alignment of the two-thirds minority, which is the part of the minority rule for state statute of any board or commission in the city of Hartford. Any other
Majority
questions,
Leader.
Mr. Bozano? Yes, sir.
Yes, I appreciate that you for letting me know. This is for the Police Accountability Review Board.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for
Yes.
correcting me. So
You're welcome.
I will definitely be supporting this.
Okay. Any other questions?
Councilman Clark, for transparency reasons, and I know that we just went through a brief confusion there. Would you be able to read item number 7 for the public? Again, where it referenced the PAR board and the appointments. There was some confusion as to
This is
members.
okay.
Mhm.
This is item number 4 in our agenda, and I'll read it again. This is Mayor Brennan with accompanying resolution confirming the appointments of Shantae Brody, a member of the Board of Education, and Gary Bozano, a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, to the Police Accountability Review Board, known as PARB, which was item 7 on September 28th's council agenda. And again, Mr. Bozano is a member of the Republican Party, and Ms. Brody is a member of the Working Families Party. So they make up the minority portion of this newly created board.
Thank you for that clarification, Councilman Clark, and through you, Mr. Bozano, thank you for your interest in participating in the PAR board. I know you'll be a great asset, and thank you for your dedication and always serving on these important boards in the city of Hartford. So for that, I just want to thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure to help Hartford any way I can.
Any questions? Any further questions? Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you. One last question, Mr. Bozano. Just briefly, what's your understanding of the impact of systemic racism on policing in Hartford or anywhere?
You know, I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, it's somewhat of a loaded question, I guess. I'll tell you what, simplify it a little better. Do I think police are racist against? That's
not what I'm asking. You want me to rephrase the question?
Well, sure, that'd be great.
Okay, fair. I appreciate your asking me. We live in a country with a centuries-long history of racism that carries us forward to today, that is in everything from how we live to where we go to school to who we know and who we don't know and who we interact with. It is in everything. It is in our government. It's in everything we do. Presumably, it's in our policing as well. And that's not to say that individual officers are racist, but it's structural. And I want to know how you understand that to play out in Hartford, if at all. And I guess I would say, what do you think could change about that?
Yeah, okay. So there's no room for racism anywhere, all right? I don't care what it is. There's no room for it. Well, my wife was an educator in Hartford for years. My daughter's an educator in Hartford now. Just bear with me one second. So, and they've seen it through the years, and I don't want to say appreciate it, but they know And I've heard about it. I'm like, that's disgusting. How can that possibly happen? You know, whether it's a child, whether it's adult. There's no room in this world for racism. Okay, I don't care if it's a cop against somebody. I don't care if it's an educator against a child. Whatever it is, there's no room for it in this country. And to use it in any way to hurt somebody is just absolutely 100% wrong.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to send this to council favorably.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and seconded to send this item back to council with a favorable recommendation. Any discussion? Seeing none. Okay, one discussion. Yep. Councilman Gale. You're on mute, Councilman.
I got him.
That just one clarification. Since Ms. Brody has not appeared, are we just sending back Mr. Bozano at this point in time and leaving, asking her to come back to the next meeting?
I thought she was on.
My understanding is she's at a Board of Education meeting.
And just for clarification, the Board of Ed does meet at the same time as the Quality of Life and Public Safety Committee. So I know Ms. Brody, and I'm perfectly fine with sending her back to council with a recommendation.
So the motion is to send them both back. That was my only question. I just...
For clarification, Councilman Sanchez, you want to rephrase your motion so that we're
absolutely
clear?
Make a motion to send both items to council favorably.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and seconded to send this with a favorable recommendation back to the City Council. We have a discussion. Councilman Mitchell.
Maybe this is more of a technical question for Corporation Counsel. How would I, at this point, either offer an amendment or make a separate motion to send one back and not the other? How do we do that in light of the pending motion? I just don't
know. Madam Deputy Corporation Counsel.
Natalie, do you want me to take that?
Try again, Natalie.
I was just joining for the CPRB portion of the meeting. I didn't want to step on toes, but I'm happy.
No, that's fine, Alexandra. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Councilman Mictum, technically speaking, you would make an amendment to bifurcate the items if you are, going to vote one way on one and one on the other. That would be the best way to do it if that's what you're thinking.
So then I will. So through you, Chair, I will withdraw my motion and make a new motion. So it's going to be two separate motions. I'm going to make a motion to send this to council favorably.
But wait, one second, Councilman. I just want everybody to be clear. Even though this is the original motion was to send this to council with a favorable recommendation, there's still a bifurcation method that can be done at an upcoming meeting. So Councilman Mitchum, even though you may not be in support of sending one or the other back to City Council, you still have the opportunity to either approve or disapprove the item by way of bifurcation.
What I was saying, Councilman Clark, is, and that's true, it can certainly be amended as two separate items when it comes before the full council. What I was saying is that Councilman Mictum can, at the committee level, also offer an amendment to this motion to amend it so that it is only one individual or the other if he wants to vote differently as far as the recommendation on one individual versus the other. And it sounded like what Councilman Sanchez wanted to do was withdraw the motion so that he can just move to send one individual at a time back favorably so that all of the votes can be recorded for the individuals rather than go through the amendment process.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And Councilman, I just want to put that other additional clarification out. So Councilman Sanchez, you have the floor again.
So I do have a question. Attorney Lombardi. So right now, the two names are on one resolution. So we would still have to bifurcate this, right? Separate the two names before making a motion on each one.
Your question is when it goes before council?
Yes, at this moment in the committee.
In the committee, I don't have the agenda up right in front of me, but I still think that you can amend the item so that you can take a separate vote.
Okay, so then I will continue with making a motion to send Mr. Bozano to be appointed to the PARB to council favorably.
Second.
So the new motion is on the floor. So Councilman Sanchez, you withdrew your original motion.
Correct.
Send both of them. So now the new motion is to send one person, which is Gary Bozano, back to council with a favorable recommendation. And it was seconded by Councilman
Gale.
All right, now do we have a discussion on this matter? And Councilman Mishtam, you have your hand raised, so you have the floor.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Just briefly, I like Mr. Bozano. We crossed paths a lot during the campaign, but for what I think is supposed to be a specialized board that is focused on policy recommendations, I would hope for someone who either has some particular experience or expertise, or comes with some strong feelings and some roots in this area in terms of the answers he would have given to those questions. So, with respect, I appreciate his instinct to service, and I appreciate the service he does, but I would say to my colleagues that this is maybe not the right service for him. So I would suggest that we don't send him back favorably.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, the motion on the floor is we're bifurcating this resolution. So the motion on the floor is to send Bozano back to council with a favorable recommendation. All in favor of sending Gary Bozano back to council with a favorable recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposals? Any abstention?
No.
We have a no, which is Councilman Mitchum. No extensions. The ayes have it. That Mr. Bozano will be sent back to council with a favorable recommendation. Mr. Gale.
So I'm just going to pick up with where Councilman Sanchez left off and make a motion to send Shantae Brody back to council. But because she hasn't appeared and because I want to encourage her to reach out individually to council members, I'd like to send her back with a no recommendation. Send her back to council so we can move on it. But I don't want to, my motion is that we do it without any recommendation. And therefore, I hope we can all reach out, find some way for her to reach out so she can get, I don't want to delay her appointment, but I do think it's important that she reach out and talk to us.
I second that.
Motion.
All right, so it's been motioned and properly second to send Ms. Shantae Brody back to council with no recommendation, understanding the fact that hopefully by today and before our meeting on Monday, that members of the council, John, you were timing me? We'll be able to have a conversation with her, and I will reach out to the mayor's office to help facilitate those discussions. And we have a hand raised, Councilman LeBron.
So thank you, through you, co-chairs. I know I'm not a member of this committee, but as a member of the city of Hartford and knowing Shantae Brody well, she has been someone who has been born and raised and committed to the city. And by all means, I have not, she has not spoken to me or asked me to speak in favor of her, but her actions speak for herself. Just in the time that I have known her. She has served for years on the Greater Hartford NAACP. As part of the NAACP, she served on the Social Justice Committee piece of the NAACP, and I believe was the chair subcommittee of the NAACP, as well as being a Hartford Board of Education elected board member by the community. And I think she's now in her second term. She is someone that you see in the community, is active in community, and is strong in the community, and will give her opinion if she needs to. And so just knowing Shantae, and I know I'm not a voting member here, I just wanted to give that brief bio to everyone here for her.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm very familiar with Ms. Brody. I do support her appointment. She has been an active member in the community for such a long time. Also, too, having served with her at the time of the North Hartford Education Task Force. So she has a heart for the community, heart for policy, and heart for reform as well. And I think that she would do this committee justice by serving as a member on the committee. Councilwoman Bermudez.
Thank you, through you. I also want to echo the same sentiments. I've known Shantae Brody for quite some time now, and she's someone who is definitely a fighter for Hartford community. She sat on a lot of different boards and is still a board member of the Board of Education and is actively involved in the NAACP. And specifically related to this board, the Police Accountability Review Board, it's an area that she's passionate about, and it's an area that she is definitely willing to further investigate and get down and in terms of getting more information and more just policies for the community.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And again, I echo those sentiments. Any other discussion from our panel? Seeing none, all those in favor for sending Shantae Brody with no recommendation back to council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposals? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. Moving on. We have, let's drop down to item number 6 on our agenda, which is Mayor Brennan with the company resolution to accept a 2020 COPS grant from the U.S. Department of Justice in the amount of $2,391,351 over a 3-year period. I'm sorry, Mr. Bozano, thank you very much. If you're still on, thank you for your time and have a good evening. So do we still have Chief Thody here?
Yes, I'm still sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about this opportunity?
Yeah, so this is the Department of Justice COPS grant. This is the hiring grant. We've received this grant in years past. It was not offered the last couple of years by the Department of Justice, but it's a competitive grant. We apply for it. We give all of our staffing information, and then they use the formula to decide how many positions that they'll staff. This particular grant is for 10 police officers. They fund them fully for 3 years, no match. And then our obligation is to fund those police officers, those 10 police officers, for 1 additional year. So it's a 4-year commitment, 3 years funded by the COPS office, and 1 year. Again, this is we've taken advantage of this grant in the past, and it's been very helpful in our increasing our staffing.
Thank you, Chief. Part of this grant is supplanting not allowed in this grant.
Correct. Supplanting is not allowed in this grant. As a matter of fact, during the application process, which started, I believe, back in February, as we moved through the budget process and removed a couple of budgeted police officer positions there, we had to reach out to the COPS office and make sure that that was okay. We gave them the specifics of what we were doing, and they said it was okay. They approved it. But supplanting is not allowed here yet.
Councilman Mitchell.
Just two questions for the chief. One is because I know I don't know, so maybe some of my colleagues or people watching, what does supplanting mean in this context?
So in other words, if we were to take these 10 positions and like eliminate 10 positions from our budget after getting this grant and use this COPS money to fund those 10, that's supplanting. So the reason for the COPS grant, it started back in the Clinton administration, was to add officers for community policing. So if you had a police department with 100 officers, you would apply for COPS grant funding to get your PD to 110 and use those 10 for specifically community policing. So they didn't want you to drop attrition-wise, drop down to 90, then use the money to get back to 100. So that's supplanting in this particular.
So actually, my second question is related to that. My understanding is that we've already, like, our budget, everything is set up so that we're going to get this grant. So what happens if the grant goes away for some reason? Like, what happens in terms of our staffing and our budget and all that?
I don't know that the budget necessarily set up for this. We looked at our staffing when we did the budget, and we looked at where we wanted to be at the end of the year. One thing that that we've done is budget for the police department that we want. Not necessarily in years past, we would incrementally increase it year to year. We have historically budgeted for the department that we're looking for with the staffing. This year we removed some of those budgeted positions. This would be an additional 10 for the next 4 years. Obviously, once the 4 years are up and as attrition brings you back, you're not responsible for it. It's no longer considered supplanting.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding this item? Seeing none. Councilman Gale.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to compliment the chief and the police department in the same manner that I complimented the fire department for being aggressive and going out there and bringing home the bacon, so to speak. Thank you for obtaining these funds, which, as I understand from your comments, are really designed to supplement our police force and provide us with even better community policing. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman. Chief, how competitive was this grant? Are there anybody else within the state that received the grant aside within Hartford Police Department?
Traditionally, this is a pretty competitive grant in the number of people that seek to fill positions with it. We have seen, historically, I looked back in 2012, we got 12 positions. In 2013, we got 10. In 2014, we got 15. In 2015, the grant wasn't there. In 16, we got 15 positions. So I think they look at your staffing. It looks to me like, when we were at 370 officers, 380 officers, they looked at our staffing based on the size of our city, and they gave us a couple, more positions. I think it's rare to get denied the grant altogether, but we've done a good job of getting quite a few positions, not just 2 or 3 or 4 like some other police departments have seen. Credit to the folks that are writing the grants, both from City Hall and from our planning and accreditation team.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Chair, entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to send it to council with a favorable recommendation to accept these funds.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Chief Brody.
Thank you, Councilman.
It's been properly seconded. Any question, Councilman Mitchell?
Just a brief discussion. Y'all have heard me say this enough. I won't say it at great length, but we have more than twice the number of police per capita of the average in this nation. In other words, we are a city that is over-policed. And even apart from the question of spending money, because as Chief Doty points out, this isn't costing us anything. More police leads to more of the kind of problems with police we've seen in some measure that other communities have seen. So I would actually urge my colleagues not to get on board for more and more and more police. We need fewer police.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other discussion? Councilwoman Rosado?
Yes, I just want to piggyback off what Councilman said. Chief, you're doing an amazing job, and I'm going to quote Councilman Gale. Thank you for, what is it, Councilman Gale, bringing home the bacon? Is that what you said? So thank you. Thank you very much for everything that you've done on a daily basis for the city of Hartford, for keeping us safe, which is
Thank you, Council President. Appreciate it.
the number one priority here. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of this item, I'm sending this back to council with a paper recommendation. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposals?
No.
One no. Any abstentions? All right, the ayes have it. This item is passed. Back to council. Thank you, Chief Doty. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Chief Freeman, thank you. You by all means, you're welcome to hang out with us for the rest of the committee meeting. Just that I don't know if you have anything else to do, but thank you for your time as well and your service continually. Council President.
Thank you, sir.
You're on mute.
I also wanted to thank you, Chief Freeman, for sending us over what everyone calls the pink shirts, and for the amazing job you both are doing as public safety in keeping our city safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. It's our pleasure.
Ditto. Thank you. And it is our pleasure.
Thank you. So, with that said, we're moving along our agenda. I just want to point out that item number 3 and item number 5 are actually the same item. So, if there's no objection, we can consolidate that to take that up as one item. But I want to ask Attorney Natalie Guerreri, is that, even though there's different referral dates on that, can we actually take these up as one item?
Alexandra, I'm thinking that we can. It's the same item. Were they combined? Were you prepared to speak on both, or?
Yes, I was, for the sake of not to get individuals confused.
Right. I mean, if we'd like to take each one at a time, then I guess that would make the record more clear.
I think if there's, to your point earlier, Natalie, I think if there's no objection and the items are indeed the same, then there's not harm. I mean,
Let me just take a look.
If it's the will of the committee, then.
Let me just take a quick peek at them.
Okay.
Well, one has the underline on the addition of the reference to the Inspector General. I'm not sure if they are the same. Oh, I see. Okay. Hold on a second. I don't know, Alexandra, if you've seen both. I know you were here to speak up on the item 3. I haven't done a comparison, but it looks like certain parts of item 5 are underlined, whereas in item 3 they are not. So I guess my recommendation would be to take up each one separately, seeing that they're not identical.
Yeah, I wasn't here to speak on any item in particular, just to for support if there were legal questions, because I've been answering them all along at the other meetings. I do see that they were referred on different dates. As you mentioned earlier, Councilman Clark, is one the amendment and one the original? I can't compare the documents because I have it in PDF, so.
Yeah.
So I think item number 3 is the original, and item number 5, I'm not sure exactly what is fundamentally contained within that document. So I'd rather start from the beginning, which I would deem that as number 3.
Yeah, I think that might be the thing to do. I'm just referring back to the mayor's cover letter to item 3, which indicates that the version that he attaches is subject to change, and the only change in that version from the previous is that now there is a new requirement for the mayor to solicit recommendation from organizations representing various stakeholders, and mandates that the mayor tell the council which organizations were consulted when transmitting a nominee. So it appears that, as you indicated, Councilman, that there's one and then there's an amendment, but I don't know which one is. Well, it appears that number 5 came later in time. So I believe it looks like number 5 is the change that the mayor is referring to, because it adds language to it.
I can tell you all that the 9/28 meeting is the one where you all voted on the amendment, because I was present for that meeting. So the one that was referred on 9/28 would be the amendment.
Can I ask a question as you all sort this out, which is, I think, just a technical question that might clarify?
Councilman Mitchell, go ahead.
Thank you. So I know we voted on an amendment on 9/28, but then there was a different, what was it, last week, Council President released a new version of the amendment indicating that what we had voted on was not the intended one. So I guess my question is, which of these is the thing that the Council President sent out last week? And if anyone knows the answer to that.
I don't.
My, how can I say this? My goal was actually to start from the beginning, which is item number 3, and work through the amendments that would be contained in item number 3, which is the original ordinance, and then go from there. Because item 5, I believe, as we classified, as a technical clerical error. So if we start from number 3, we can actually go ahead and eliminate the clerical errors and essentially starting fresh. If you understand.
3 is the mayor's. 3 is like the mayor's original.
Yes. You follow what I'm saying?
Would we then just do all our work on 3, vote on 3, and just throw away 5?
That's actually my preference, which I was trying to convey. And hopefully, if the rest of the committee would agree to that, we can do that. Councilwoman Bermudez?
Yes, so that was going to be my next question. So are you all going to be proposing to withdraw item 5 then?
If it would be the will of the Public Safety Committee, and I wanted to do it step by step so that there won't be any more confusion than what it is already. But procedurally and technically, I would rely on Corporation Counsel office to give us the okay whether we can actually work from number 3.
Sorry about that. I was on the phone trying to figure out what was attached to this agenda and what correlates with each item. So item number 5 should be whatever was referred by council, the amendment that was voted on by council on 9/28. And it doesn't appear that that is what was attached to the agenda. That was probably an error because I understand that different caucuses have probably been talking about various versions of this, but someone should probably move to at least substitute whatever was attached to the agenda, and I don't know what version this is. Item number 5 for what was actually voted on by council on 9/28, so that you can start there and you can actually discuss the amendment that was referred.
Councilman Mitchell?
Through you, I think this question is for Corp Counsel. What motion would one make to reject, kill, do away with item 5, and then be able to take up item 3, which I think is what the majority leader was saying was the way he suggested we proceed. How would we do that procedurally?
I think at the end of the day, you all don't need to vote to refer either item out of committee, or you can use this as an opportunity to talk about as a committee about what version you all think would be an acceptable amendment at the next council meeting, vote on a new amendment then, and then take it from there again with, if there's substantial changes, then it would again go to a public hearing. I don't have to take you through that process, but I think that if the things that were attached to this agenda that were referred to committee aren't what you all want to discuss this evening, then I would take this opportunity to discuss whatever amendment you'd like to, and you don't necessarily need to vote any of these items out of committee, and then they just couldn't be voted on at the next meeting of council.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Gale.
So trying to move this along, I'm not sure we need to dwell much further on all this procedural stuff. I think we need to find something and act on it, and then send it back. I have, and I can share it on the screen, I think I have what we don't have in this package, which is the version that I think was perhaps supposed to be in front of us at council, but wasn't in front of us. And so I don't know if that would be helpful, Mr. Chair, if I were to share that version. That's got a lot of the amendments that I think people want to move forward, but I don't know how you want to take up moving from amendment to amendment.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, so one possibility is I could just move that as an amendment right now, the entire document, and then put it in front of you so you can see what the entire document, what it looks like. And as I said, I mean, we can then compare it. I think it is the most recent version that's come from the mayor and from council president, as well as the one that was supposed to be in front of council and didn't make it in front of council. If I'm saying that right.
Yeah, no, I got what you said, and I think too, you're not thinking along the same lines as to move this along. And Councilwoman Bermudez, I see your hand. just to provide the document that I was planning to discuss before us, which is the revised, I would consider the revised ordinance that was intended to be before the entire body. So do you have that on the screen?
Let me try it. I do have it. Let me just see if it works.
And while you're trying to figure that out,
That's not it.
Councilwoman Bermudez, you had a question?
Yeah, so just to clarify, so we're talking about 3 different versions. There's the initial ordinance that the mayor submitted on July 13th, which has already gone through the first course of, it already went through a public hearing.
Right.
And then there is the second version, which is the amended ordinance that was voted favorably by Democrats and the Hartford Party on September 28th. And now there's this third amendment version that Councilman Gale is referencing. And that third amendment version is dated as of when?
There is no actual, to answer your question, there is no actual date on it. The actual date on it is July 13th, which is the original.
The changes that are on the third document are reflected as of when? What was the last update on that document? And I'm asking that question because I want to make sure that as Working Families Party, we were requested to include our proposal in a master document last week, and I want to make sure that our changes are reflected on whatever that third document is.
Well, Mr. Chair, do I have the document on the screen? I can't tell.
Can you scroll up, please? All right. Now, scroll down.
And you'll see this says in nominating members of the CPRB, the mayor shall give substantial weight. This seems to be the amended version that continues on page.
Yep.
I think, let's see, there was some.
Councilman Gale, you are correct. That is the amended version.
That's the correct one.
And the council president sent out on Friday?
I believe so. And so,
yes,
without answering Councilwoman Bermudez's question, because I don't know that answer, I would just, because it's my understanding that there's at least a lot of agreement as to what's in this document, I would put this forward as an amendment to work from tonight and to make changes from this document itself.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
I second that motion.
It's been motioned and properly second to work from the revised document that all of us had received on Friday. Discuss, and therefore we are discussing this item that was sent to everyone on Friday as an amendment, and it's been seconded. And it's been my understanding that all respective parties on the council have had discussion and buy-in as to what we have before us now. So it is more so of a collaborative ordinance of ideas from all respective parties on the council. Any other discussion?
So on that, in the third version, we as Working Families Party highlighted the sections that we included in that document, but I'm not seeing that unless if you are all seeing it.
Would you be able to say as to what section you're referring to?
And I'll try to scroll it up.
Besides highlighting, is it underlined as well?
It's highlighted
as yellow when it was last edited.
Do you remember what section, Councilwoman?
There are many sections.
Yeah. You want to start by, do you have a copy in front of you that we can actually go through?
What I'll do is I'll send everybody the email of the PDF format that we saved.
It's highlighted in, I'm just so that I can know for myself. Is it in color? So we can it can be distinct.
What's that?
Is it highlighted in color so we can actually know
Yeah,
what
it's highlighted in yellow.
Okay.
See it.
Councilwoman, did you send it?
Yeah, you should be getting it right now. Did you all receive it?
Yeah, I did. I'm not sure if any of my colleagues, Councilman Gale, did you receive
Yes,
it?
I'm looking at it now. I see the yellow. Certainly one suggestion, Mr. Chair, with all, is for Councilwoman Bermudez to go through one at a time her proposed changes to this document, and we could then vote them up or down.
So, and I think it's my understanding, Deputy Corporation Counsel, were you getting ready to say something?
I was, but I'll let you finish. I just want to make sure I know how we intend to proceed and make recommendations if I need to. So I'll let you finish, Councilman Clark.
Yes, thank you. And I need your guidance on this. My understanding is that we have this before our committee now. We have one item that is that was emailed to all of us on Friday. That is up on the screen, and also to Councilwoman Bermudez's amendments as well. These are items for discussion that do not necessarily require us to vote this out of committee, which we're on Monday, we actually can take these matters up for a full council vote. Now, am I correct, Deputy Corporation Counsel?
So, Councilman Clark, so the two items that were referred to committee, if the full council body doesn't intend to vote on those at the next council meeting, there's no need to vote them out of committee. It sounds as if one of them was contained some errors, and we're not really sure what the other one is. It might be the original that was proposed by the mayor. So there's no need to vote those two items out of committee if the full council body doesn't intend to vote on them at the next council meeting. What it sounds like is, we have noticed to the public that we would be discussing those referred items, and it sounds as if the discussion is going in the direction of we don't like those items, but here is what we would like instead. And so you're free to discuss that at this meeting. This document that Councilman Gale has up, or whatever it is that Councilwoman Bermudez just sent to the group, you can certainly post for the public and discuss as you see fit. And then you wouldn't be voting that out of committee either, because it was never referred to this committee. If you intend to act on that, the proper way to do it would be to amend the mayor's proposed ordinance at the next council meeting in line with whatever you all decide is appropriate at this meeting, and then you'd go from there. Does that make sense to everyone?
That makes sense. So this is a matter of what Councilwoman Bermudez has sent us. It's just a matter of discussion, being that it was not actually filed. So there's nothing from that recommendation for us to vote on, vote out of committee.
Correct.
Okay. So, all right, let's, we have this that's up now on the screen, which I believe is pretty inclusive of all of our thoughts and conversations, which each of us individually, collectively, as well as the mayor. So are there any other discussions regarding this item? And I'm trying to, okay, Councilwoman Bermudez.
So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of discussions because the document that is in front of us is not the mayor's July 13th original ordinance. It's the document, the amendment. So there's a lot of different items that we would like to discuss. Because on the one hand, we're saying, okay, so obviously the mayor's ordinance stands, and at the same time, we're saying that the ordinance that was amended on September 28th and voted yes, thumbs up by the majority of council, needs to be both disregarded and also counted at the same time. So there's a little confusion from some folks who are watching.
Well,
So as I understand it, this is actually the corrected version.
But council never voted on this corrected version. So no matter what we do, is going to have to go back to council because council voted on the erroneous version.
Right, and so that's what I had said earlier. This right here is just a matter of conversation. On Monday is where the actual vote will be taken on whatever version the will of the council decides to vote on. Yes, sir, Councilman Gill.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, maybe I may not have understood everything that Corp Counsel was saying, but in my experience, committee has the ability to recommend an amendment to anything. And so, I'm just trying to be helpful here. I've made a motion that the document that's in front of you be put forward as the amended Civilian Police Review Board ordinance. And I don't see any reason why we can't walk through this document at committee and say, refer back to council, whatever version we want to refer back to council. We've got the council has sent us two things, item 3 and item 5. We can at least send back one of them to council. And I think the one we send back to council can be one that we've discussed robustly. If other further amendments are desired, council members can make amendments to what we have here. I think the real important thing, frankly, is, and this is so difficult because we're doing this by WebEx here, is, who's the record keeper for any changes that are going to be made. I could attempt, with this on the screen, I actually could attempt to do a highlighting if somebody suggests a language change that actually passes, and maybe this will be a good working document, but I don't know if either of our corp counsels could perhaps help out in record keeping here. But I do think we could move forward with the documents in front of us and then refer that back so that, and this is to Councilwoman Bermudez and Mictum's point, the public knows what we're talking about. Here's a document in front. If any of the public are watching right now, they can see this is the document that we're working from, and they could actually see if we make changes to it. I could potentially show how those changes are being made as well. So just trying to be helpful. I don't know if I am, but trying.
No, that's helpful, and understandably too. What we, as I understand, there's nothing that actually has to be voted out from today's committee. We have the opportunity at Monday's meeting because of the fact that it is an ordinance and it will continue to come up on the agenda where we could actually vote on proposed revised changes at that on Monday's meeting. Am I right, Attorney Lombardi?
Councilman Clark, you're correct. Councilman Gale, to your point, yes, it's true that a committee can vote something out with recommendations. This is a kind of a case of everyone's right. You can take path number one, which is just to kind of discuss this version that's up on the screen so that you all have the opportunity to see, is this something that's going to fly before council, but when you take it up before the full body, or you can entertain Councilman Gale's motion. I don't know if there's been a second to amend one of the versions that has been referred to this committee, and then vote on referring this back to the full body of council with those amendments. Those are two different ways that you can approach this issue, and it's just a matter of the will of the committee. But in either case, let me be clear, because I think Councilman Mictum said this a couple of times, and the full body of council does have to vote on the amendment. So even if you refer this out as amended, it's not as if it proceeds through the entire process that way. It has to go before the full body of council.
That's correct. Thank you so much for that.
Mr. Chair, through you.
Yes, Council President.
Thank you. With everything that has been said, we have Councilman Gale that has just shared a document with everyone. We have Councilwoman Bermudez, who has just sent the council members her edits to the document that Councilman Gale is sharing in yellow. Could we start having a dialogue of what Councilwoman Bermudez is saying, referring to her document in yellow that is not on here?
So, yes, to answer your question, I actually wanted to get to that because of the fact that this item that is on Councilman Gale's screen that he's sharing with all of us, we have that before us. So I would recommend that each of my colleagues who has this ordinance in your inboxes to look over that, and so that we can actually just look at what what Councilwoman Bermudez sent us, just so that we can hear from WFP's standpoint as to what the recommended proposed changes are to the mayor's civilian police review board ordinance. Keeping in mind that Deputy Corporation Counsel, we still need to act on items 3 and 5, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So with that said, if we can just, I'm sorry, Councilman Mitchell?
No, I was actually saying, just go ahead. I'll see if I have anything to say. Sorry.
Okay. So with that said, we have this on the screen. Let us just, for conversations, have a conversation regarding the recommended changes from that Councilwoman Bermudez had provided to us. but also to keeping in mind that we need to take action on items 3 and 5. So either Councilman Mitchum or Councilwoman Bermudez, would you like to talk about the proposed changes?
Yeah, so, and mind you, these aren't changes that were sent just now. I mean, yes, I sent an email just now to the council body so that it could pop up as an immediate email that you're seeing for purposes of comparison. But I wanted to clarify that what we are providing you with, we've sent to the council body ahead of time, not just once, not twice. This is now the third time, because we originally sent it to the entire council when we were reviewing the ordinance during our committee of the whole meeting, which was a couple of months ago. So on the first section, when it talks about composition, it's lowercase letter B, section B. The Civilian Police Review Board shall be composed of 9 regular voting members and 2 alternates who shall be regular voting members when they sit. And up to there is where we are in agreement. And I'm going to read an entire paragraph. Before I read the entire paragraph of changes, I'm going to summarize it so that the council and those watching can understand what it is that we would like to change it to. So the changes that we would like to see, and again, this is all based on the community feedback, the emails, the 36 plus emails that we received both from organizations and residents, has to do with making sure that the composition of the CPRB is reflective of all Hartford residents, instead of saying, okay, 1 or 2 Hartford residents. The entire composition should be all Hartford residents. And then this is a summary that I'm providing.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Bermudez, which section are you on? Is it section 2-196?
So right in
2-196B.
B.
It should be what's in front of you, the section that says composition.
That's right. That's correct.
Okay, I see it now. Thank you.
And then the other summary, and going back to why all Hartford residents, there was a lot of conversation back and forth during, for instance, our budget proposal, the budget time, and one of the feedbacks, one of the responses was, we should really concentrate on hearing directly from Hartford residents. And if folks are reaching out to us from a nearby town, whether it be West Hartford, East Hartford, New Britain, whatever other town that's nearby, nearest to us, it doesn't matter, because this is about Hartford. And so one of the things that we received, one of the comments that we received from the public, the community, was that for the Civilian Police Review Board, folks in the community wanted to make sure that it was reflective of Hartford residents. Now, some folks might be saying, well, how is that possible? Are there boards that only have Hartford residency? Yes, there are other boards and commissions where you only have specific Hartford residency. The Permanent Status Commission of Women Board in Hartford is one example, but I'll stop myself there. Another thing that we wanted to summarize in this category is to have representation of at least 1 or 2 members that are young adults that are actually nominated to the Civilian Police Review Board. So by young adults, we are referencing college-age students, so between the ages of 18 to 26. And so the other part of the summary is to make sure that in the same spirit that the mayor in his ordinance said that he wants to make sure he receives community input from organizations, which we think is fantastic. We want to make sure that that process is transparent, so that thereby be some kind of system to publicly let it be known how this community input and this community orgs will nominate individuals to sit on the Civilian Police Review Board, and not have it be a process where it's up to the mayor and only council to decide. So with that said, that was a summary of the changes that we want to see, and now comes the language. It would be 8. So right after the first sentence, which ends with "when they sit," period, 8 CPRB members and 2 alternates, both of which should be residents of the city of Hartford, shall be nominated through an open citizen and community organization nomination process that provides guiding information for nominating institutions and groups, identifies members' alternate qualifications, and outlines participation expectations. It is encouraged that at least 1 or 2 of the nominees are between the ages of 18 to 26 in an effort to include younger residents. For all qualified nominations, the mayor shall appoint members and alternates from a pool of candidates generated through a citizen nomination process. The mayor shall make public the rubric process utilized to select a nominee. Such rubric shall be made available alongside nominees' resumes. That was the change that we would like to see in that particular category.
Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you. Just to expand a little on that one part about the age requirement, because Councilman Sanchez and I sort of had an exchange about this at the September 28th council meeting. The reason we think this is important, because Councilman Sanchez had said, and I think he makes a good point, like we want representation for everyone, you know, old, young, Black, Latinx, everything. But the issue is that on the one hand, the group of people most affected by over-policing, most affected by police misconduct is people, I believe, under the age of 20, young adults, people up to about 24. So they have a particular perspective. And on the other hand, I think we all know that the nature of civic participation is that as one gets older, one participates more, one has more experience. I mean, none of us, I think, none of all of city council are under 26. And I think it is just the nature of things that the people who get appointed to these boards tend to be, 40 and up as a general question. So by making this small set aside, what we want to do is just make absolutely sure that the voices of that population most affected by over-policing are on this board. So it's just 2, but I think the 2 are important.
Okay. Thank you for that. Next section.
No questions. Everyone loves it. We're gonna add it to the photograph.
I have my hand up. I don't.
Councilman, I can't. The way the screen is sharing.
Sorry.
I can't see you at the same time.
It's okay. So through you, co-chairs. In regards to my esteemed colleagues, in terms of the age, having historically organized youth groups and done things statewide and both nationwide for folks in this category, what we have to be careful of is limiting ourselves and putting ourselves in a structural bucket. And so if you look at the language that we have here, we basically posted a broader umbrella in terms of advocating for diversity and equality within the city. And then furthermore, I understand that youth often have multiple interactions, but on the other end of the spectrum, you have a lot of returning citizens who have done, multiple times, did years, and are very interested in justice reform and recidivism in themselves to help younger folks. And so by making the generalized statement stating that because youth have interacted, well, let me just say this. There are a lot of what we quote unquote call OGs out there that have suffered repercussions as a result, lifetime repercussions for both themselves, their children, their families, as a result of interactions. And limiting that and limiting their story, I think is also an injustice for that group of folks as well. So we have to be careful about the language and to make sure that we encompass everyone. That's just my opinion. I know I'm not a voting member, but.
but what you're sharing is highly valued. Thank you. Councilman Mictum.
Thank you. I really appreciate that input. And I think if anything, what it says to me is that we should have a set aside both for young people, and maybe it's just one, and also for formerly incarcerated people. I think that could be really valuable if this, if we made it a rule that this board included one person who was either formerly incarcerated as an adult or formerly adjudicated delinquent as a minor. That's what I would say. I think, yes, we want to include everyone, but I think it's because of the nature of the board, we want to make sure certain voices are absolutely represented. And I take Councilman LeBron's suggestion, and I think that's how I would respond to it.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yeah, I was going to add, in the same way that we have in other boards, we want to make sure that not only diversity, but we also have equal representation, let's say by political affiliation, right? We want to make sure we have a Republican, we have a Democrat, we have a third party, working families, whoever. And so it's important that we also recognize at minimum one individual who's a young adult between the ages of 18 to 26, because in past boards that really hasn't occurred, to say specifically we want to recruit someone young. And a lot of the board compositions you'll find, right, and maybe that has to, maybe also tends to be with people's availability and whatnot, who knows, but the board composition, it tends to sway with a certain age demographic, and the folks who, let's say, are coming out of college are not necessarily considered first, and so that's something to think about.
Yeah, if I could just respond. The only thing, I mean, I agree with the spirit of having the age, right? It's no doubt about it. Having advocated for youth and continue to advocate for youth. But the point I'm trying to say here is we as a council can make sure that youth are on here. We approve who's on here. It has to go by us. And so what I'm saying is that we're walking a fine line in terms of a slippery slope. Then, you know, it's a category that you must do 18 to 26. Then it's a category that you need, you know, some of these types of citizens, and then these types of citizens, and some of these types of citizens, and all that. And that's what I'm saying, is that potentially we're opening up a Pandora's box where literally when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, the spirit of that is not an added categorization of folks. It is the intent of the people that come before us, and our job as a responsibility as a council to make sure that who we vote in is representative of that. That's what I'm saying. And so my fear is that the next thing that you're going to have is, you know, this category, and then that guess what we're going into? Just a categorization, and then, you know, it becomes unwieldy.
So I just want to step in here and thank you for that, Councilman LeBron. So I totally and wholeheartedly agree with Councilman LeBron. I understand, Councilman Mictum, your point, and also your point as well, Councilwoman Bermudez. I do have a fear when you appoint someone that doesn't have the experience, especially in life, only certain experiences. Maybe he had a bad situation with an officer, or maybe he didn't, but maybe he's hearing information from other folks. Now he's building this. His mindset is already going into one direction. I prefer to have folks who are experienced, whether they were incarcerated, whether they're not, they have the education, they have a relationship throughout the community, they have a relationship with the police officers, understanding that not everyone are bad cops. It's the same thing as like not everyone is a bad person. You know how the racism is, you know, in the Puerto Rican community, we're stereotyped one way, and Italian community is another way, and so on and so forth. So we need to appoint people who has a general experience in life and has an open mind. And I, for one, do not believe that younger folks will have this type of experience. But yes, we do have plenty of young folks who are in college, who are very mature, and maybe a possibility to appoint them. But at the same token, okay, we can't eliminate or put in a bracket a specific age limit, because that to me restricts what this is all about, inclusive to all the ages, and those that qualify should be the one that gets appointed. Councilman Mictum. And by the way, I would like to move to the next subject, please. Thank you.
Yeah, and last thing, I just want to respond both to what you, Councilman Sanchez, and what Councilman LeBron said. I think, it's true. We don't want, as Councilman LeBron was saying, to divvy this up so much that it's like, this is the youth seat, this is the incarcerated seat, this is the senior citizen. Agreed, right? We want to look for experience, but I want to say, it's only a slippery slope if we let it be slippery. I mean, we are the ones who write the ordinance, so there's no other requirements, I can tell you, that Wildelis and I are proposing. There's no other requirements. So the slope stops there, and we're only talking about 2 on the whole board. So we're not saying we're going to stock the board with 18-year-olds. We're just saying these are so important because of their particular perspective that we want to put them in. My concern, Councilman LeBron said, we can do this by who we vote to approve or not approve, but ultimately it's the mayor sending us folks. And if the mayor sends us 9 folks and there's no representation, they're all good folks and thoughtful and experienced, and there's no representation for young people and no representation for the formerly incarcerated, I think it's going to be very hard for us to say we're going to vote down this one and this one who are otherwise qualified, right? What we're doing, if we do it that way, is we hand it over to the mayor and we end up losing this. All I'm saying is I think this is important enough for a set aside. Y'all know how I feel. I won't beat the dead horse anymore.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Councilman Mictum, and Councilman Sanchez, but it's in the same way, right? And so the slippery slope may not come necessarily from council, but it's going to come from the community, right? And so what we will see is pushback from community members, urging us to open it up for this broader category. And so what we're trying to do is, come together with all community members and all the insight and inputs up until this point. And so what we're doing is, again, where we're trying to, we got to get this done. We can debate ongoing for as long as we want, but we're just, again, we're opening it up again. And so as broad as our community is and how much we love our community and how much our community members in there, it is on us to make sure that we put and we vote the demographics, everything that we want in those seats.
Now they're discussing.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
I was just going to say one final thing, and then we can move to the next one. So that particular request came from Blue Hills Civic Association, in case you were wondering where it came from. I'll also state where the orgs, when we reference certain sections that we would like to see change, I'll reference which were the orgs that stated it as well.
I just want to say I'm looking at Blue Hills Civic Association recommendations, and I don't see anything regarding age. If you could provide me with that document, I have the Blue Hills Civic Association recommendations here. It doesn't say age specifically. Thank you.
We received several recommendations from the 2 Vickies, as well as some of the members who work there.
So Majority Leader, I have a question. There was a motion to discuss the revised version, correct? By Councilman Gale.
There was Councilman Sanchez, but I don't believe that there was actually a second to discuss the revised version that is on our screens.
I second the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did not hear that. Hold on, I gotta fix the screen here. Given the fact that
and through you, Chair, I know that the working party has expressed numerous times that that's the recommendations that they got from the community. We also did get recommendations from the community. And a lot of that is reflective in this revised or amended ordinance also.
Yes, and as I stated before, that the revised version, which is on the screen, everyone's screen, it is, I believe, is a collaboration of thoughts and ideas regarding what should be amended from the mayor's original ordinance, and understanding that the fact that we still can discuss and debate this on Monday's meeting with an actual decision as to what actually is going to be amended from the revised version. So I hope everybody understands that, and so that we can move this along, so that we can, because we still need to take whatever the will is the body to take up regarding items number 3 and item number 5, which probably will be a no recommendation for city council.
Thank you, Mr. Chief, for that clarification.
You're welcome, Madam President. So again, the item that the revised version is on our screens. We have this in our inbox that I would say that we should be prepared for discussion on Monday's meeting, in addition to the discussion that we were just having regarding the proposed ordinance that has been prepared by the Working Families Party as well. Is everybody clear?
Yes.
Okay. So, Councilwoman Bermudez, we do have, so just so that I'm clear, so that I can read through this, the ordinance that you sent us with the revisions, the ones that are highlighted, the sections that are highlighted, those are your proposed changes?
That's right. That's correct. That's the Working Families Party proposed changes.
Okay. Can I get an agreement by all those that are on the Quality Life and Public Safety Committee to review the Working Families Party's amendments, proposed changes, as well as the revised changes? So,
Absolutely.
In preparation for discussion for Monday's council meeting?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Because this is basically the intent for us to have this discussion in the committee meeting tonight.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chair, or Councilwoman Bermudez, but the document that you've sent us is kind of, I think you sent us that document before, and it's the changes you've put in there are changes to what was originally submitted by the mayor way back in July. You haven't amended you haven't really taken into account the amendments that are in front of us.
So when we received last week, I received an email on Thursday indicating that the amended ordinance, the version that was voted on September 28th was the incorrect version, and that in the spirit of making sure that the correct version surfaced, that council, all of us, were to include changes onto a specific document in the same way that we had to include changes the first time, right? And so we received this, it looked like a Google Doc, and we had to go in there and manually input changes as of Thursday, per the request of the council president on Thursday. We had to go in there and manually put changes, place the changes that we would like to see. And so that is the document that that I emailed you all per your request, as soon as you all said, well, can we see what you highlight? Can we see the exact changes? So I emailed it to you now, what is that, 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, and look, I'm just going to suggest that it would be, since what's in front of us, I think, is really going to be kind of the working document. If you have proposed changes, it would be kind of helpful if you look at this document and try to fit your changes into this one, because this one does take into account a lot of the stuff that you want. And to Council President's earlier comments, let me just say, you know, and I assume everybody, we received the same comments that you received. You don't have a corner on the community. we all got the same stuff. So, you know, I've got recommendations here in front of me from the Greater Hartford Interfaith Action Alliance. I've got the recommendations from you, the Working Families Party. I've got the recommendations from Blue Hills Civic, from Vicki Gallen Clark. I've got the recommendations here from Joanna Iavino. We've got, you know, all of these recommendations. And I sat down, as other council members sat down, and have tried to incorporate these recommendations into a document. I haven't gotten, I've made some suggestions that other people haven't accepted. You know, none of us get everything that we want, but I think it would be somewhat helpful if looking at the changes that have been incorporated into this document now, because they have taken into account a lot of those community concerns, maybe not exactly the way that everybody wants them to be taken into account, but they have taken them into account. Making amendments from this is moving forward might be the most helpful thing.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I referenced the email that we received last Thursday was the updated or the correct version that we then said, okay, so now since this is the correct version, we will place our recommendations into this updated version.
Yeah, but you didn't. Your recommendations aren't in the updated version.
Right. So if I could just, yeah, you know, just to piggyback, you know, just personally, I'm gonna speak from my own personal story in regards to the CPRB. This is something that I have put countless hours into. I've taken everyone's recommendations, all communities. I've had multiple phone calls, breakfasts, taken into account working families, parties, suggestions, as I'm sure we all have. This document should be evolving, right? But the only thing that I want to say is that to make sure that we're all on the same point, and rather we do it in a Google Doc or we do it in whatever, but we need to land on something. And so, because we could be making changes on this forever. And so I had to negotiate my own things that I wasn't able to put in here. And so, I mean, you have a lot of input into this document, and it will behoove us to at least use the most current version before we move forward on Monday.
So all right, I'm going to reserve comment. I see Councilman Mitchum's hand has been raised. Councilman Mitchum.
Thank you. I understand that it feels, everyone's saying like, all right, we can't go dragging through. We'll be here until midnight, and I'm open to that. And I also understand what Councilman LeBron says, that, you know, already a lot of reform or revisions and changes have been made. And I appreciate that, but my concern is this. All of that has happened from the perspective of the people behind the scenes, which is why I think it's valuable to talk about it either here or in full council meeting, because, for example, if I'm not mistaken, this newest draft does not include and I'm not going to dig into it. This is an example. The new draft doesn't include a requirement that the community agencies that can take complaints be listed online. Okay, which seems so straightforward and unoffensive that I can't imagine why it wouldn't make it in. So if it's not going to be in there because of some process of balancing among the Democrats, somebody should speak up and defend it, right? Publicly. Say, here's why we don't want to tell you where you can file complaints, for example, right? So if there's going to be changes like that are big changes, I'm not talking about going through every little bit of like and or this, that, but if there's going to be changes that are significant and that I would suggest harm the ability of the people to make complaints, somebody should stand up and say, yes, I wanted that change and here's why. And it's a pain, like we got to wade through it. It's a big document. but at least like we do it, the people see us doing it, and they know that we stand behind what we've done.
And so I believe that the complaints portion is in there. However, that is something that can be proposed and amended on Monday's meeting. And so I think that we have a revised document that we have been taking a look at again, which I believe is our working document. We also have what was sent to us by the Working Families Party. So I would say that this is something that we should be prepared to discuss, debate, and come up with an amendment on Monday's meeting, so that then after that, hopefully that in that amended version of the Civilian Police Review Board will be sent out for public hearing, because there's not a public hearing that has been had on the amended version as of yet. So moving on, I would like to yes, give me this.
All right, so I can summarize a couple of other sections. I think for the interest of time, I won't read the actual paragraphs, but I can summarize the intent behind the proposal for specific categories that we as Working Families Party have made.
Okay.
Okay. So this one is it would be under the section, it would technically be on the ordinance page 2, but the ordinance pages have shifted somewhat. So it'd be under the section labeled police chief where the police chief is able to select designees. And so the spirit of it, I'll summarize it, is to have, and this is something that Councilman Mictum asked police chief, which is, can we have the policies, the Hartford Police Department policies, be made available online? Can we have excessive use of force data be made available online? And so it would be that particular category would be to include that that provision, to have the policies for the Hartford Police Department, and we could even use, the Chief Doty's original language, as long as it doesn't compromise public safety. Can we make sure that all of the police policies are available online and available to the community and available to the CPRB members themselves? And that we have HPD excessive use of force cases accessible as well to the public, available online on the city website. And that the information obviously be made available in writing. So that was that category.
Okay. I'm sorry, were you done? Okay. All right. Councilman Mictum, your mic is muted. All right. So we have the proposed changes. We also have, again, a revised document that we all should be, I would recommend us reviewing for the rest of the week in preparation for Monday's meeting, so that if those feel that whatever's absent of in the document about, for example, how community complaints are actually filed, about community agencies be listed, about policies being noted on the website. Let's come prepared on Monday's meeting to have these recommendations and discussions. So moving along, I would like to take action on items number 3 and 5. Is there a motion on the floor for item number 5? Sorry, item number 3 first.
I'd like to make a motion to send it to council, no recommendation.
Is there a second?
Actually, I have a question, and I hate to do this right now, but Councilman Gale, can you bring up section E2 on this,
Section E, accountability.
yes. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Number 2 reads the number and identity of police officers complaints against and the number of identity of the police officers and members of the police department against whom multiple complaints were received and the dispositions of the complaints and the identity of the police officers of more than 2 complaints. When Councilwoman Bermudez, and this is for clarification purposes, when Councilwoman Bermudez says, make excessive use of force data available to the public, there is, I'm a little bit, I would like clarification from her, because this draft, already requires this information to the public. It's under this section. Are you saying that, on a yearly basis, the Civilian Police Review Board puts out this report? Are you saying that you want a section in there that is available as a live document that gets updated every Civilian Police Review Board meeting, or a report every 6 months?
I'm saying for that information, that data to be made available in real time, in the same way that in the city of New Haven, they are doing that as well.
Okay, so putting it in real time, the report on a 6 months basis or on a yearly basis, are you saying that you want to see it again? I'm a little bit confused. Are you saying that if the Civilian Police Review Board finds findings to be sustained on a police officer, that his name be put out on a database? Is that what you're saying?
We want to know who the frequent flyers are.
Okay, so again, this report is made, and I don't know if Corporation Counsel can answer this. A report does come out from the Civilian Police Review Board on allegations on police officers, and it kind of flags down certain findings to see if there's something that is an issue or has to be addressed. I don't believe we only have Alexandra on now, correct? From Corporation Counsel?
I think Natalie is still here. Her video just.
So Natalie, could you elaborate on what already on which report comes out and what does it reference?
Yeah, the only one that I'm aware of is the one, because I'm assigned to the Hartford Police Department and not the Civilian Police Review Board, is the biannual report that's required by Cintron from the Internal Affairs Division of the Police Department, that just lists out the number of citizen complaints, their status, and the individual officer named, as well as what he's being or she's being charged with.
Now, is that, I'm sorry.
And yeah, that gets sent out to the review board, as well as the mayor, and as well as to the city council. Okay. So that might be what you're referring to, but I don't know if the review board itself issues some sort of report.
Okay, and so is that report on the police website currently? I don't know. I have to ask for clarification purposes.
Yeah, I have no idea if it's on the website.
Okay.
It is a public document and it's, FOIable.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So going now back to Councilwoman Bermudez. So based on what was just said to us, right? Would that document suffice your concern of having it included in the website so that it's available to the public?
Can I jump in here? Because I think I can answer that question.
Go right ahead.
Go ahead.
I think, Council President, that the idea is that the review board is doing its work, whenever it makes a finding of misconduct, right? Because that could be excessive force, that could be a number of things, that those findings become public and easily accessible, not in a report that's FOIable or not even in a report that's sort of aimed at Cintron v. Vaughn, which is sort of related, but that they are easily accessible to the public as soon as they are known, right? I mean, presumably the board is operating throughout the year and making findings, and we would hope that every time it makes a final decision on an issue, that goes up and the data are compiled. So I think, does that answer your question, Council President?
It really doesn't, because what I'm saying is if this is produced every 6 months and we make this report available on the police website where any individual can go in there and see if there's a pattern with a misconduct of an officer, is that sufficient enough to satisfy the working party on the data being available to the public? Or is it that what you want to see on a monthly basis, a report that states on the November 10th Civilian Police Review Board, these were the findings, and it's updated on a monthly basis?
I think monthly, I mean, the vision that I had, monthly is closer to the vision here. The vision I had was in the same way that when courts issue decisions, the decisions are published. And then you can go somewhere, online, and you can see all the decisions that have been published. They're all there, right? And they get updated. Obviously, maybe it's not the same day or even the same week because, people have things to do. But there's a running tally of what the CPRB has done.
Okay.
So monthly is
we're gonna have
more
to have
in the ballpark of what I'm talking about.
Councilman Mixon, we're going to have to have a discussion because, now you're going into, and the example you use of the court system, you find the findings of a case. We are talking about police conduct. So I don't think that's such a great example on my question. But I don't want to keep prolong this meeting on this issue, but I would like clarification and on what the police department is already doing, where they send it to council, to the CPRB board, to the mayor's office, which is the administration. If we can take that document every 6 months and post it on the website.
Okay. I saw Attorney Lombardi's hand up. I just wanted to acknowledge her. I think she had something to say.
Thank you, Councilman Clark. I just wanted to, Councilman Gill, I know you still have the document up, and I did want to point out that I think it's in this version, but it's not on this page, that there was, the provisions related to the reporting of the CPRB were made more robust, including to address Councilwoman Bermudez's concern about frequent flyers. I thought I did see language about individuals who have a certain number of complaints over a certain time span must be reported. Thank you, sir. So I just thought I would point that out. That's all, Councilman Clark.
Thank you so much. Duly noted. Councilman Gill.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to follow up on the Councilman Mictum's comment. It's my understanding, and it's in here twice on this page in section 5 and section 8. It says all minutes of the CPRB are going to be posted on the website and made public. So, to his concern about what courts do when the decision's rendered, it's public. When the CPRB meets and it makes a decision, it's public. It's going to be reported on the website. Having said all that, I want to second Councilman Sanchez's motion to send number 3 back to council with no recommendation. I second that.
Thank you. It's been properly motion to second. Any discussion on this item? Councilman Mixton.
Thank you. I'll just limit my discussion to a procedural question rather than all the substantive questions. I know that this is a ton of discussion, and I think the sentiment is that we could do this discussion at council rather than in the committee. But 2 points. One, I had kind of thought that the work of the committee was to slog through this swamp and be able to discuss and figure out maybe if there's some room for compromise, as tedious as that is. And 2, my experience with trying to discuss these very changes with this very council is that my colleagues did not want to discuss it and very quickly cut off debate. So I would just ask, and this is not me asking for an amendment or for anything, I would just remind everyone that if what you all want to do is have a thorough discussion of these changes and have people defend their positions, say so now, or say you won't. But so that when I get to I want to have this conversation, I don't hear those 3 magic words of call to question as soon as somebody doesn't feel like answering.
Councilman Sanchez.
So I'm going to answer. I'm going to say I'm speaking for myself. You know, for the past several weeks, you know, the working family, what I've seen is that you've been giving the impression to the public that the Dems are doing nothing about this PCRB. You're posting lies on Facebook. I don't have any other social media because I don't want to deal with it. But the fact is that we've all have been having this conversation, whether it's in meetings, whether it's on a one-to-one or in groups, and we've all considered everything that we've received in email, text, and phone calls. So for, you know, whether it's you, Councilman Mictum, or you, Councilwoman Bermudez, to say that we did not hear you and that we did not hear our community, our constituents, all right, or each other is not true, okay? We had much conversations. We have considered everyone's input, and this is why we're here at this moment. And if we are going to keep and continuing going back and forth, then that is disrespectful to the community who is waiting to finalize this. Now, I know that you don't see some of the languages that you have in there, but there's some language that's in there that I would like to see, and I don't see it in there. All right. But this has been considered to be the best so far. And I think we're probably the lead on this in the Northeast. I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. But I do know we have been working on this day and night and have considered everyone's thoughts and input. Thank you.
So I have.
Thank you. Councilman Sanchez, I take you at your word. I have no doubt that folks have been working very hard on this, you know, as have Councilman Bermudez and myself. The trouble and what concerns me is when that work isn't done in the public eye. And that's really been my fuss. Like I've said, I know we are 2 of 9. We're going to lose. But if we're going to lose, I want people to stand up and say with their chest what it is that they're against and what they're for, which is why I want to do the thing here or at council without anybody cutting me off.
So I just have to, what does that mean in the public eye, right? Like, are we supposed to cross the T's and dot the I's in the public eye? Are we supposed to highlight things and change things and all those things in the public eye? What we have right now is you're talking about a multi-layered document that's full of legalese that takes conversation. Does the public wants to see hundreds of hours of us talking back and forth, or should we do our due diligence, come prepared to the meetings, having read all the documents that have been brought before us, read your documents, obviously our documents with the edits haven't been read for whatever reason, right? And then come to the table and debate. To go over each line item and for us to then go into a subjective matter as to what you deem is more important from what we deem is important or what I deem is important, you're starting to get into the weeds. What we have to do and what the people expect us to do is to make systematic changes, not to do wordsmithing on live air.
Agreed.
All right.
The chair, if I may. What we're calling for is not wordsmithing on live air. What we're calling for is for a conversation as to specific sections and why things, let us know why you felt strongly about voting certain things down. Like, for instance, having community agencies listed on the city website, or having CPRB complaints have an automatic number attached to the complaints as soon as they're generated online, something which happens through 311, for example. So as a resident or as a community person that your complaint isn't being thrown away. Having the police union president not be part of the selection process for the 3-member person panel. There's other things too that really stood out for us, and we would love to get some answers reference to why those things were removed. We don't have to go specifically, and or why wasn't this little line? Like, what we're talking about is, by definition, summarizing particular categories and figuring out why you all felt like they should not be included.
But like Councilman Gale said, right? Councilman Gale stated, what you guys edited and what you highlighted was not our latest document that we edited. So
let me clarify, because
I'm just saying that because
okay, all right.
It is what we were sent on Thursday. It is the latest document.
That's not the latest.
To take, I'm gonna take the chairman's priority here.
Councilman Clark, I'd like to say something for the record. And for the record, on the record, I am going to say, and I am going to piggyback off Councilman Sanchez, what he said, and I'm not going to repeat it. But when the Civilian Police Review Board ordinance came up, this entire council body, and I don't think that there's no one on this entire council body that doesn't care about this ordinance, that hasn't spent numerous days, times. We've been in caucus meetings for 4 and 5 hours to do what's right for the city of Hartford and its residents. I don't appreciate some of the things that have been said on social media. I did take responsibility. There is always human error, which I took responsibility that the last ordinance that was passed was not the correct one. I don't appreciate sitting in this meeting listening to Councilwoman Bermuda say, I lost count on how many times she repeated the wrong one, the wrong one. I want us to invest our time productively and work together to move the CPRB forward. And yes, what a lot of people are saying is that, we call the question at the last time. It wasn't because we wanted to cut off someone, but there is a time that you have to call the question, because this was a moving live document that was going to be sent back to public safety, because we wanted to be transparent. And I wanted this to go to a committee of the whole so that every council member, because this affected the entire city of Hartford, would be a voting member and give their opinion. And so why are we not going through this now? And I'm not speaking over the two chairs, is because There are 5 voting members and there are 9 council people. So yes, we will have a discussion on Monday. Okay? And it is my duty to the city as an elected official that if I have to stay until 2 o'clock in the morning and debate this ordinance with you, then so be it, and we will. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion that was on the floor regarding a non-favorable recommendation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposers?
Aye.
None, no opposers, no objections. The ayes have it. Item number 3 is being sent to council with non-favorable recommendation. The chair will entertain a motion for item number 5. Councilman Gale.
I move that we send item number 5 back to council with no recommendation.
Second.
It's been properly motion and second that this item number 5 will be sent to council with no recommendation. Any discussion? Councilman Mitchell.
Just so I'm clear, I know we went through this, but so the idea is we send both of them back, but back at council, we'll just take up one and kill the other. Is that the idea?
Yes.
I'm not sure how this will work, but I would guess that the version that was in front of you could be substituted as an amendment and put into our council package as an amendment.
Right.
Chairman Clark, am I correct about that?
That is my understanding. You are absolutely correct.
So the version that you were looking at tonight is what you're going to look at on Monday, hopefully, and amendments. And that's why I'm encouraging you to look at it and make your amendments from it, because that's what will be on the floor. Okay.
Okay. So,
okay. But 5 will be gone, or we won't have to have 2 fighting.
Exactly.
At the council meeting. That's all.
One revised document, and we will work on that for Monday's meeting. I just want everybody to understand that, so I would recommend finding time between now and before Monday's meeting to read the document, and then again be prepared for some substantive discussion. Any other discussion on this item? Say none. Let all that are in favor of sending this to council with no recommendation say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposals, any extensions, saying none, the ayes have it. This item of number 5 is going to be sent to the city council's next meeting with no recommendation. Seeing that we have no other items to discuss at this time, this Quality Life and Public Safety Committee meeting for October 20th, 2020 is now adjourned. Have a good night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and please remember to vote. And also to send your ballots if you have not done so already. Thank you so much.